Yeah, and then see, there you go. You're live. You're
Oh, I
live
am live.
now.
Oh, good. Jesus Christ. Okay, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen of online world and Facebook world and all that, you are very welcome to this week's edition of Mauls, Balls and All. Joining me this evening are two familiar faces from the group. We have Claire Devaney and we have Darrell Weston. Also, we have joining us for the first time, she is the lady of Balls Bridge. She is the queen of the RDS. Mary Carroll, how the hell are you? Are you
Thank
well in
you.
yourself?
I'm grand. Thank you very much.
Good stuff. And of
So,
course, returning. Sorry, go on, Mary. What?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, no. Returning to our show. This is not his first time here.
Captain Birdseye.
Nor
No,
his
I'm not,
second
no,
time.
I'm not calling you Captain Birdseye. No, Brent. No, stop it. No. Let me do the proper intro. Hold on one sec. He is oh god. He's an ex-pundit. He is a businessman. He's a writer. He's an author. He is also a mental health advocate. It's something that's close to my heart, which I love. And his project, which I follow closely, The Elephant in the Room, has been a great success. I think for everyone involved, it is a subject matter that, Brent, you are trying to highlight, which we all need to talk about more. Brent, you're very welcome, Brent. For people who might not be familiar with The Elephant in the Room, do you want to give them, before we go into it, do you want to give them an overview of what it's all about?
Yeah, I suppose, Peter, in the sense that I come out with my own story about suffering from mental health issues since I was a young man about 20 years ago. And each year, people have always said to me, oh, people are talking about mental health issues and that in much greater numbers, there's much greater awareness. And my answer to that is yes, they are, but who are they talking to and what are they talking about is more relevant because we haven't seen stats from people suffering from mental health disorders go down. We certainly haven't seen suicide rates go down. So this is still a problem area. And as far as I'm concerned, recovery or feeling better starts one way always, and that's with a conversation with somebody, because otherwise, especially for men, we get stuck and we think it's weak to speak. Like I thought all my rugby playing days, I couldn't turn to another aspiring All Black rugby player and say I'm struggling with something other than do with my physical side of health, because we don't make mental health as equal a priority as we do physical health. So I came up with this idea that we took something out of the head and got it graphically, so it's represented in a wonderfully branded elephant by companies, sports clubs, schools. Now we're getting into universities, what their feelings on mental health is, and it's a symbol. It becomes a symbol for anybody out there that is struggling, that they just need to talk to someone. It gives them permission to talk and maybe makes that step a bit easier when they see the metrics so far we've got back. Interestingly enough, from some companies have taken elephant, they've seen a 300 or 400% increase in people going to talk to somebody about what's going on in their work life, HR, colleagues, or whatever, like 300 or 400%. And that's fantastic.
Brilliant.
And it's great news because somebody comes into a workplace, they see an elephant there, even if it's a momentary thing, they can just say, okay, I'm in a place where somebody up the chain has thought about my mental health. So it makes it easier for them to get the next step of saying, look, maybe I should talk to somebody. Maybe I should talk to the team coach. Maybe I should talk to the captain. Maybe I should talk to somebody in HR and just get things started, because we all have elephants. Elephants don't necessarily, to me, mean anything that's to do with anxiety and depression or suicidal ideology. That's the big three in mental health. Whatever's affecting you. Might it be kind of gender? Might it be sexuality? Might it be performance? Might it be bullying? Whatever that is your elephant. And a problem shared is so often still a problem halved. So that's the basis of it. But companies have taken them. We've moved, I think, 100 and last count, I think about 120 elephants. They're now going worldwide. We've got elephants in Brazil. We've got elephants in the States, in the UK, New Zealand, Australia. And all the rugby teams signed the elephant, the All Blacks, the Wallabies, Pumas, French team, all signed one because they wanted to get behind this movement that just expressed, especially to rugby players and to men, that it's okay to have problems going on in your life and to talk about them.
I think it's absolutely
Brilliant.
fantastic. I
That's
really
great.
do. I really do. It's a subject that is close to my heart. I love it. I think it's brilliant what you're doing, Brent, with that. And come here to me. The last time we met, Brent, was in a wet, rainy Stephen's Green. Remember, with the great Charlie Bird, the great late
Yeah.
Charlie Bird, if you remember, and you were doing an elephant run. I can't remember where you were going with
Yeah,
that.
no, we're doing something for Charlie. We're taking
That's
it
right.
through to the mayor's we're doing a walk
The
down
man
Grafton
knows,
Street.
wasn't it?
No, Charlie was a great supporter and a great friend. I really got to know Charlie over the last 2 years of his life or whatever. You know, we've become pretty close. I ended up going out and visiting there, out with Claire and Tiger, and you know, he was such a different man than I thought. I don't know what I thought, but you know, in RTE days, he was one of these people you wouldn't approach. You know, he was
Yeah.
kind of a foreign correspondent. He could be a bit bristly with the interviews and that. So I probably steered to the other side of the corridor because, you know, what relevance did I have in their lives as sporting? But when I really got to know him, he was an extremely kind and generous man with his time, and he gave so much back before he passed away. And we had conversations around mortality and what that looked like for him, and his relationship with Tracy Vicky Field.
Yeah.
Very important to him
Yeah.
because I think she was really great for him, you know, because he was scared and he went and spent a weekend with her. And I think her positive attitude about living, you know, for the day really rubbed off on him. So he came back and he said, look, I want to do something. He said, I've accepted that you know, that I may only live another year or two. And he'd accepted that.
Yeah.
And once he made that acceptance, I think he just found things,
Was,
you know, a little bit easier.
yeah.
You know,
All right. Okay.
it could be
Very good.
fantastic.
No, I think that's great. I think it's great. It was a good afternoon.
Yeah. No,
And good to reflect
thanks
on.
Thanks for your support, Peter, and also just say to Mary, you know, Mary has been one of the great Leinster rugby supporters and Irish rugby supporters over the years, and she's also been very kind to me on numerous occasions, always checking in and that. So thanks for that, Mary. I mean, you're a wonderful supporter. Everybody loves you, and you're at every game, at every sevens tournament, at every match, waving the flag, good or bad. So it is really appreciated. I know that from that's been said by a lot of people to me. So
thank you so much. Although the last time I did meet you, Brent, was at the semi-final in Aviva, and we lost.
Yeah, but you've always kept upbeat. You haven't been the first to jump on, you know, the team or players. You've always been, you know, really balanced in your views. It's not to say you're not disappointed like all of us, but
yes, of course, you have to keep going.
Yeah. As I said, Brent, Mary is, you know, the queen of the RDS. The first lady of Paul's Grade.
Not in the stage it's in at the moment.
Right, okay, folks.
Porgies along.
Yeah.
Before we start talking about all of what I sent you on the list, a few comments.
What, we got a list?
People.
You got a list? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
You got a list, Claire. Yes. Okay. Right.
Yeah, I didn't. Okay, I didn't actually read it. Like, you should know me by now. I don't actually read it. It's like.
Okay, Gregor Galway, evening all. Good evening, Gregor. Catherine Keegan, evening all. Gregor Galway, always great to see Brent back on.
Thanks, Gregor.
Hi, Gregor.
Our colleague James Grennan, evening, Brent. Delighted to see you back on here again. Elle Willoughby, evening, chaps. Hello, Elle. How are you? James Grennan there. Evening, Mary. Glad to see you on our little show too. Okay, thank you. All right, okay. Mike Reedy, evening all. Mike is joining us from Scotland.
Ooh,
Bevan Marie. Bevan, by the way.
Well done, Bevan Marie.
She got a 2.2 in her nursing exam, so she's now
qualified. She's now going on to third year. Yeah. Well done, Bev.
Well done, Bevan.
Congratulations.
There you go. Mike, really great to have Brent back on again, and welcome to Mary.
Thanks,
Thank you, Mike.
Absolutely, indeed. Johan always has these sideways questions. Does Brent meet up, keep in touch with George Hook? They were a great duo, Miss the Hook and Popey's show. Go on, Brent, I'll let you answer that, obviously.
It's funny you should say that, Joan, because I just did a podcast yesterday with Mario Rosenstock.
Oh,
and he
great.
asked the very
thanks.
same question. And yes, I sadly I tried to organise a meal out about 2 months ago, but George couldn't make it, so I need to reorganise that. But yes, it's not as much as I'd like to. Of course, people don't realise. I think George is 82 or 83 now, and so he's moved into retirement life. But yes, I still regard him. I'm still very close to George, and still regard him as a really good friend. And we worked together for 25 years. But it was just something that people have been saying to me regularly, that the colour has gone out of some of the punditry.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I don't know how you guys feel, but even watching the Lions, somebody came back to me the other day and said, like they were watching the Lions game, and they said, "What is all this 2-3-3-1 or 1-4-4-2? Like, who are they appealing to?" Because the way George and I always looked at it was like, you appeal to the majority of the people watching the match that don't really want to know the ins and outs of where the prop should have his arm or what's happening. They just want a general idea of what's happening on the pitch. And it's become too technical. Even for me, I'm looking, like, what are they talking about? But look, maybe I'm just, too long out of the game. I don't know.
No, you're bang on, Brent. You're bang on, Brent. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, as someone that used to watch yourself and George, I know it's where meant to be, but it was comedy gold watching the pair of you. Yeah, it was so. And he used to oh no, he's right. No, oh no, I go for him. I mean, yeah.
It was George used to have, they have the Ferrari or whatever, the Islander driving the Volvo.
The ladder.
That's
right.
I actually, Brent, just watched an episode the other night of Vapre match where they were doing. With the square.
Very good one.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't know. He wouldn't know his elbow from his ass or something. Tom. George.
Right, come here. I tell you what.
I remember one of my favorite parts growing up of the Muppet Show used to be the two lads in the balcony, Stadler and Waller.
Oh yeah.
And George was literally the human version of one of those. He would.
Yeah,
just,
he was
brilliant.
But it was great viewership. Mary, I was going to ask you a question. What was I going to ask you? Oh yeah, we had Fiona Hayes on here last week. Great chat with Fiona. She's an absolute legend.
Diamond.
Yeah, she's a diamond. But Fiona, Jesus Christ, Mary. What? Just to kick off, just to start off, we're 15 minutes in. Mary, the Lions to date. Just to get your opinion on it, Mary, just your own personal opinion. A player or players that have excelled, and maybe one or two that really their tour has not really kicked off yet. And I'll give you an example that was said last week, right? Ellis Gange, yes, great. Duhan van der Merwe, not so much. And what do you think, Mary? Your own opinion.
The captain.
No.
The captain. I don't think.
I don't mention the captain. Jesus Christ, Mary. I told you. Yeah.
I don't think he's excelling. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, that's. Geez, you can say what you want.
My heart just goes out and breaks for Caelan Doris. I just feel if he was there, it'd be obviously so much more cohesive, and he's a fantastic leader. And just seeing the other performance, I feel sorry for him. But I think the Irish performers are, when there's a lot of them on the team, it's just remarkable because they all know where each other are. Obviously, the team have only been together for a few weeks or whatever, and you can tell when they split up between the different countries. It's just different when they have different players from different countries. But when there's a good batch of Irish on the team, they just pass. They know who's where. They know who's going to pick up, and there's just that cohesion, much better. So I don't know. I think it's a mixture of everything. I don't think anybody's had an absolute nightmare as such. Then like
Marcus
other people,
Smith.
pardon?
Marcus Smith.
Well, yeah, okay.
Oh,
I'm watching. I'm watching Dara's face as I say that.
I think
Hold on.
I mean, to be fair to him, he's been played out of position, but I think, yeah, I mean, he hasn't had a great, but he's when he has played a 10, he's been fairly okay.
All right, go on, Mary. Have you?
Sorry, Mary.
Yeah, no, but I also feel like, as Brent said earlier on, they haven't been tested as such yet. I mean, the one in Aviva against Argentina, okay, that was a different. But since they've gone over to Australia, they haven't been tested. They're playing like they're playing Mickey. No, I won't say Mickey Mouse clubs. That's not fair. But they're playing clubs that wouldn't really be a threat anyway.
No, I agree.
All right.
I don't think
Okay.
it's very, very much obviously experimental at the moment. We're just shoving people in and out, and I'm not seeing where the big picture is as to who will be for the test matches.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Mary. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Brent, as Mary just said there about the gelling of a team, is that the Lions always reminds me of the Barbarians.
Yeah.
We're just, hell yeah. Go on, lads. There you go.
It's a bit less than that. I've had some involvement in Barbarian teams. It's a bit different in the sense that I know they keep rolling out the kind of, we're only just together, we're pulling all these teams in together, and that's fine. But when you turn out and see that they've actually been together now probably 4 or 5 weeks, unlike the Barbarians who come together, they usually enjoy a few drinks during the week. It's usually nothing to do with the rugby. They come out and they're just an individual team. They put a bit of structures. That's not the same with this Lions team. Just going back to what Mary said, I feel the same way about this tour, and I felt the same way from when it was announced, because when the Lions was first set up, or even when it was set up years ago, they couldn't have competed as equal unions. They couldn't have competed against the All Blacks, South Africa, Australia back maybe 30 years ago because they didn't have the strength and depth. There wasn't the strength and depth in Irish rugby. Wales might have been able to do something. There wasn't as much strength and depth in Scottish rugby and English rugby. So that was the reason why they set off touring down the Southern Hemisphere. Now you're looking at a situation where Australia, I keep telling people, Australia are ranked just slightly above Fiji and behind Scotland, behind Ireland, behind England, and yet these are the best players that are coming out on it. The only thing Australia have going for them, actually, at the end of the day, is a damn good coach in Joe Schmidt, and also the fact that they're playing at home. But when they come into, like, Joe Schmidt's already lost his out half. He doesn't know who the next out half going to be. Is Skelton going to be available? We don't know. Like, Australian rugby isn't as big as what people want to make it out to be. In fact, the biggest game in town.
No, it's not. It's not. I agree with
you. Is rugby league. And I said something the other day to somebody, and they looked shocked. And I said, when I was on the last Lions tour to Australia, when we came down to Melbourne or one of these places, they didn't even know who the Lions were. You were saying to people, are you not going to the big rugby match? Well, we don't care about rugby here. So while there's been this great build-up, we're going out to win a series in Australia. If they were going to South Africa, they'd be beaten up by now. If they were in New Zealand, they would have played the Chiefs, the Hurricanes, the Crusaders, and maybe the Highlanders or the New Zealand Maori at this stage. Well, as Mary said, like, who effectively have they beaten? Run 50 points around Western Force. How's it any good to anybody? So it's hard to
assess where the players are. I'll tell you, Brent. Now, come here. To come back, because we will quickly run out of time, believe me. I totally agree with what you just said there about the Australian rugby. We had David Campese on here a good while back. And he said, and I quote him, well, I won't quote him, but I'll do a verbatim on him. He said, Peter, I could walk down the main street in Brisbane or whatever. No one will know who I am.
Exactly.
And I said, really? Jesus Christ, if you walk down Grafton Street,
Big
People
man.
a lot of people will know who you were.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm agreeing with you, Brent. That's
But I think
And
I
that's
think
not
he
to
said
take anything
time,
away from
Peter,
the
that rugby was like
the
fifth in
institution of the
Australia
Lions.
after AFL, league, union, cricket.
Yeah.
You know, union had fallen down so far in the pecking order of sports in Australia.
And that's not to take away anything from the institution, which is the Lions, because I think, I watch it like everybody else. But what you're really watching at the end of the day is how players can impress when they're brought together. And you go back to Mary. I mean, the players that have impressed me, I think if you had to pick an outstanding player that was consistent at this stage before the test, I would say it would be either Gibson Park
That's who I
or
would.
Gary Ringrose.
Yeah.
Gary Ringrose has had a fantastic. Every time he's come onto the pitch and every game that he's played, he's been outstanding and he's been consistent. Now, who has dropped below the radar is someone like Tyg Byrne, who hasn't had a great tournament. I'm a huge fan of Tyg, but when we set out the store maybe 3 months ago, he was a certainty for second row. But he probably won't make the test team now. He probably won't. But
but wasn't that a case, Brent, that Tyg Byrne was played too much?
Yes, I agree.
Okay,
I agree.
all right.
And that means
someone agrees with Peter. Surprisingly.
no, I think he was like he was the mainstay for Munster for so much of that season. He's a fantastic player and he's world. If you wanted one second row, and I'm not saying he's played badly, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying from his own high standards, he'll be disappointed if he doesn't make the test team. James Lowe's another one that hasn't really performed as well maybe as he has done for Leinster. Now he'll still come up trumps and he'll still make the test team, and we know what he can do. I'm just talking about players that I've kind of looked into their kind of souls and said, yeah, he'll be a bit disappointed as the way it's going at the moment. And I think that applies to a few players because we've seen the ups and then it hasn't been followed up by another performance. Like Genge was fantastic against Argentina.
Yeah.
But the last couple of games, not so dominant. But
Mary, any comments on this? Any comments yourself on this overall?
I just go back to I think they play better, obviously, when they're under pressure, and they haven't been under pressure yet in any match, like not even slightly. So I don't know if anybody is under pressure to be giving 100%, maybe risking injury or whatever in the matches that have come up so far.
But I don't. Will Australia put much pressure on them, Mary? I don't know.
Well, probably not.
Well,
either.
I don't know. We will come on to that now. We will come on to that, right? Okay. I know we can shoot all over the place here on this show. Darragh Weston, any thoughts
Welcome
on?
back.
Welcome back, by the way. Yes. Any thoughts on what we were talking about there? Come on.
Yeah, I think, look, the one positive I would see out of the games, as Mary and Brent said, they haven't been great in terms of the opposition.
Yes.
But there does seem to be full houses at the games, which I've seen Australian fans saying, could this actually help reinvigorate union in Australia? Because they're starting to see better attendances at the club level. So, having said that, if in the test series they get an absolute hiding, then I don't think that's going to help us. But yeah, I would. I think I called Ringroses at this before the tour. I thought he was going to be one to watch on the tour. He's just such a solid performer.
Yeah.
And when he is on form, he's just lightning hot. He's brilliant. But a lot of the time he flies under the radar because he just gets the job done. I think Mac Hansen has really excelled in both defense as well as attack. Covering the back of the pitch amazingly. And like Mary said, I think Itoje, if he wasn't captain and they were picking the team on form, would he actually get in?
No.
I think Chessum has actually been better than he has. So, yeah.
I think
Claire.
he just makes it based on the game I thought he was outstanding in one of the matches at OJ. So I just don't think like Mary. He's a softly spoken guy, and you'd have to talk to people in the camp. But he's no Paul O'Connell. You know, you don't get the feeling that these players would go through a brick wall for him. But I might be wrong. You know, that's just our feeling from out there. You know, it's not to say that somebody quietly spoken. Every captain doesn't need to be yelling and screaming. I get that, but yes,
Brent, I don't rate it totally at all.
Who would you pick in the second row? Then on form, who would you pick?
Oh, I'd have
Chesham and McCarthy.
Chesham's very good. Chesham's great, actually.
Yeah, but he was at 6. Who would you play at 6 then?
Morgan.
Ty Byrne, maybe.
Yeah.
Or Van der Fleer.
Ty Byrne. If you're right, Ty Byrne. Sorry, go on, Brent.
But you can't. You know, if we're talking about, I'm asking you on form. On form? What's your test pack then?
Hold on, Brent. Hold on.
He has notes. He has notes. He read up all about this. I have notes. Me, look. I know stuff. Me.
Okay, Mary, Brent, Dara, and Claire. I'm going to read from the notes of myself. The test squad, right? I put this up, Brent, in our chat group, and Mary, you've probably seen it as well. I know, Claire and Dara, you have. Here we go.
Well,
now, jump in.
Here's the announcement. Official announcement.
All right, here we go. No, well, it's not really. It was put up the other day.
I probably didn't read it, so it's probably the first time I'm hearing it.
Oh, for Christ's sake. Right, we'll get through this eventually. Okay, here we go. 15, Kinghorn. 14, Hansen. Now, this is barring any injuries, right? So 15, Kinghorn. 14, Hansen. 13, Ringrose. 12, Aki. 11, Lowe. 10, Russell. 9, Gibson Park. 8, Conan. Open side, Jack Morgan. Blind side, Byrne. Locks, Joe McCarthy, and Atoje. Atoje's there because he's the bloody captain, right, by default. Then your front row is Furlong, Sheehan, and Genge. Now, what do we think?
Who did you say 14 was? Oh, sorry, Matt.
14 is Matt Hansen. Mary.
Oh, I love him. He doesn't. Hansen doesn't make it for me. I think it's Freeman. On form. I love Mac, what he does, and I agree that he brings so much energy and everything, and he's good in defensive. I think he's made a couple of mistakes along the way, and I think Tommy Freeman's height and his aerial ability will be important. So I would make that change, and I don't think now. I'm not basing this on heart. I'm basing it on form. Then I think that Chesham on form. I think Chesham starts at 6 rather than Ty Byrne. Even though I love Ty Byrne as a player, I don't think if we're going on form, then I don't think he makes it. And then there's a toss-up for me between Morgan and Van der Fleer, and because I think they bring different things to the game. But I agree with Conan. I'm a bit up in the air about a Atoje like you guys are, but I think that, front row I'm happy enough with. I think that would be the only change I'd make. I don't know that Mac Hansen has done enough to force Freeman out. I'd have to say.
Well, sure, Brent, he has to start Atoje because Atoje is the captain.
You don't necessarily have to start the set.
He's not going to drop Atoje. Come on.
He will for the first test. He will.
All right, Mary Carroll, what do you think of my picks there? Would you agree with Brent?
I do agree with Brent regarding Mac. I think he's great now, but just watching him lately, he does so much running and crossing the pitch without actually always getting very far. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't.
Yeah.
But he looks an awful lot more empathetic towards what he's actually achieving. That sounds probably hard, but I do find like he can be all over the place. He can be here, there, everywhere, and he can be really great at cover. But he can also do an awful lot of running, but not getting anywhere.
Sorry, Mary, I was going to ask you, would you agree with myself and Brent that Atoje, good luck?
I don't rate him. I'm not rating him so far anyway, but I think like
Thank you.
he's the captain. Well, I've said that all along, but he is the captain if he does play. I agree. Probably play him in the first test, and that'll be it, and not for the whole game either.
But again, I go back to you've got to pick on form to a certain degree, especially when it comes to punditry, is what we're doing. Again, if you're just picking on form, not on memories of last year's Six Nations, and not on memories of what Tigers Burn has done coming up to this, if you're picking on form, then who partners? If you're going to put Chesham into the second row, then who goes into number 6? Do you go with Morgan, Van der Flair, and that sort of Earl or something like that, and you put Cone into number 6? I don't know. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's nobody that's stood up and above that's going to take a Tojay's place. You're not going to put James Ryan in there. You're not going to probably going to. The only alternative is, as you said, is move Chesham into there and then look for another 6. But
well, Brent Chesham could be the option for that.
He could be.
He could be.
But on form, then do you think Tyg Burn deserves to be number 6 on form?
On form?
No.
If he was
on form, no.
He's not.
No.
No, it's not. But then again, on form, Brent, Mary, Claire, and Dara, on form, Owen Farrell shouldn't be there.
Well, exactly. But I think if Tyg Burn has an outstanding match on Saturday this week, I still think he can force his way into the test side. But he's going to have to be pretty. He's going to have to be pretty good, because we saw the rudiments of Farrell's selection in the test side last week. I don't think there'll be too many changes from that side. So that there's a couple of opportunities for a couple of players this week, and Tyg Burn will be one of them. If he can recreate his form from early in the year, fine. I'd select him all day long. But yes, Farrell is an interesting one, isn't it? Because
I was going to ask Brent. Sorry, Brent, to cut across you. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
don't mind him.
I'll ask the question, and I'll ask the question of all of you. Why is Owen Farrell there? Is he there for optics, or is he there for talent? Now, before I go to yourself, Mary and Brent, Dara, you've been waiting to say something. Go on. Owen Farrell, is he there for talent or optics?
He's there for 2 reasons. We have a captain who's not overly vocal in Tojay. We have a number 10 who, like we've seen on the Netflix documentary, where he doesn't pay attention to what his coaches tell him to do. He has kind of a history of that. So I think, Farrell, he's a good 10. He can play 12. But also, he is one of those guys where when he talks in the dressing room, everybody shuts up and listens. He carries that kind of gravitas and that experience. He's been on 4 tours. So, I think it's, he's not just there to make up the numbers. I think, we saw Russell with his wrist iced, and that was kind of the reason we think that he went out there. Because let's face it, the other 10s we have are, they're young lads. Finn and Marcus Smith, and then the other English guy. His name I can't think of at the moment.
Finn Smith.
Yeah.
Finn
Smith.
Yeah.
Sorry, Finn. So we have the 2 Finns and we have Marcus. And that's a lot of pressure to be putting into a test match. Especially when they're kind of fish out of water. They're not in their surroundings, of their natural home squad. The other thing I would say on your team that you picked, while I agree with most of it, I'd be interested to see what Brent thinks about this now. How much of it is Andy actually going to be picking on form, or is there an element of politics there as well? Because obviously, where Peter called out an Irish 11 to 14, 2 Irish wingers and 2 Irish centres, and I can't see that getting through.
No, it won't happen. You've got to play,
even if they're all on blinding form, because I think there's a politics with the Lions.
Absolutely.
That there has to be representation. It's look, if we go back to the old days of Ireland, when there used to be the politics that there had to be so many Ulster players playing, even if they didn't particularly,
even if they were shy.
But it was just the Blazers in Lansdowne kind of dictated there had to be that many. So I think it'll be it'll be interesting because it's not like picking a national squad where it's purely on form. You're trying to keep 4 unions happy. Well, 3 unions really, because there's no Welsh left anymore.
Yeah,
Well, there's Morgan. Sorry, it's Morgan.
Jack. Okay.
But, yeah.
Claire. Sorry. Thanks,
Yes.
Sarah. Your thoughts on, you haven't spoken for a while. Your thoughts on
Oh God, that's terrible. I bet you all miss me not talking.
Go on.
Sorry. What were we saying there? Sorry.
I haven't a clue what we're talking about, but go on anyway. We're talking about the team that was picked. No, the team that was picked that I read.
Okay, why is Farrell down there? Farrell is down there because he has leadership. Because he's no, I know that he's also there because his dad. No, I'm not. I know people are saying it's because his father is there. I don't think it's that got to do with that. What other team are you going to call up that has the experience and the skill level and the leadership that Owen Farrell has? Like what other team?
I don't know.
Well, if Danny Brosnan was here, he'd be saying Jack Crowley.
Okay. Like we need the three things: leadership, experience, and Jack is good, but it maybe in a couple of years.
Hold on, Claire. If you go on leadership, then what are you banking on a Toje for? What are you bringing? Look, they have a leader apparently, captain named. What are you bringing Farrell for? Where is he going to play for a starter?
On the pitch.
No, but what position is he going? What position is he going to play? You know, you've Marcus Smith, who is a 10. Marcus Smith isn't. Yeah,
Marcus Smith is. Marcus Smith is not a 15, and we all know how Dara feels on that. As you can see him doing this down there, we all know he's not a 15, but he's there to cover it. He can cover 10 and 12, but yeah, Owen can cover 10 and 12, but you're not putting Owen in at 12 ahead of back here. Or people got to do.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I'd have to say I found it a very strange decision for a number of reasons, and I think everything will play out in retrospect. It'll be a bit like when Gatlin didn't select Brian O'Driscoll for the last test.
Yeah, remember that one? Yeah.
Well, it worked out.
Still painful.
It worked out for him. So if Australia go through, the Lions go through unbeaten, and they win all their tests comfortably, and Farrell comes on and plays a cameo, then people won't look back and say it was a bad decision. I know why he was brought, and you're right. He was brought for his experience. He's been on 4 Lions tour now. He was brought also Andy Farrell is entitled to bring somebody that he knows rather than somebody that he doesn't know. That's all the good points. So I understood the decision. What I was concerned about is what is the message here? What is the message going to Marcus Smith, Finn Smith, and those players to saying, okay, we've bought unlike with like. Usually replacement comes from a position that when there's an injury in a position, they replace like with like. Yeah. So when Elliot Daly went down injured, you had everybody, including the players sitting over here in Scotland, Jordan, you had the Welsh fullback probably looking and thinking they might call me out. And then suddenly he goes with Owen Farrell, and he said it's to provide cover for 12. Well, surely they've got Hugh Jones, Bundy Aki, Gary Ringrose, and Tuvalutu to cover that spot.
Yeah.
So if they lose, I can understand. I could understand him also saying that, look, we can pluck these players from the Scottish tour. They're only 2 hours away by flight. We can get the Welsh guy over from Japan. They're over there touring. That's only so not much acclimatization. And I get the fact that Owen Farrell can, like Johnny Sexton can rope them up. But I'm just a bit concerned as what do you tell Marcus Smith that there's no chance for him, whatever way he plays, no matter how he plays.
Yeah,
that he's number 4. Number 4.
Unfortunately, Brent. That is the reality of professional.
But then you make that selection when you select the team months ago.
So Why wasn't Owen picked at the start? If he's ahead of Marcus Smith now, why wasn't he picked 3 months ago when the squad was announced?
Yes. Exactly. Okay. Now, exactly, Claire. I agree with you, Mary Carroll. just to end the whole Owen Farrell debate, Fiona Hayes said last week that for the Lions, players are picked on form. And Owen Farrell, Mary, as Fiona Hayes said last week, and I agree with her, I think she's bang on, hasn't been in form for about a year and a half. So why, what the hell, what the hell is Owen Farrell doing there, Mary?
I don't know. I totally agree with what's been said. If they're not replacing like with like, why is he there? Also, they can't be having him there for leadership when they already have a captain. That's demeaning your captain by saying you're bringing him for leadership. They can't use that as an excuse. They have a captain. If it wasn't up to being the captain, they should have picked somebody else from the start. So I'm really at a loss to see why. There's enough cover at 12.
Well, the only thing is, Mary, they did really pick somebody else from the start, and then Caelan got injured, so they had to go with Mario. So it wasn't. So
no, I appreciate.
No, but I agree with Mary too. And I said before, what is the messaging? That's what you'd be concerned about. Now, I think Owen Farrell can get away with it because he's so influential over a number of years and respected, and that'll be all into his favour because he can fit seamlessly in. But again, it was the messaging around, and I don't think we really were given that much communication around, what was his role going to be, for the coming weeks. But sure as hell that Andy Farrell will make changes. I think Australia's best chance in this series is the first test, because I think that the Lions will be a bit disjointed still, and Australia will probably be able to select their stronger side for test number 1. I think test number 2 and test number 3, I think the Australians will probably fall off with injuries or whatever, the strength and depth. So I think their best chances in test 1. If they win test 1, then I can absolutely see Farrell being jettisoned in to win the remaining games, because based on what we talked about before, based on his ability under pressure, whatever, not based on form, because you're right, he hasn't played particularly well the last year, but he could still do a job. Maybe Jordan or something from Scotland maybe couldn't do a job under pressure situations. So maybe Farrell's looking, saying, look, we're 3/4 of the way through now. We've got the test coming up. I know what my son can do. I know what he can do as a player. I know what he can bring. So he's made that call, a bit like what Gatland did with Brian O'Driscoll, much to the disdain of all the Irish public at that time. But it worked out.
Or Brent, it could be a simple case of Andy Farrell, take your kid to work day.
Yeah, I don't think Andy Farrell's like that, I'd have to say, but who knows?
No, but
but you would wonder what effect
he could have took the youngest child to work instead.
I presume he's the only father-son combination that's ever been involved in the Lions, is he? I was trying to think back. Have there been any other father coaches? No, there probably hasn't.
Haven't a clue.
No.
Haven't a clue. Anyway, before we move on,
Pete Wood's dad would have played Lions, but never coached with them.
Rachel Martin, in George Hook's voice, horse manure. Also, hello, Mary. All right. Bev Anne-Marie, I agree with the captain being poor. Sheehan should have been captain. Yeah. He did an amazing job. Same with Byrne as well. James Grennan is agreeing with you, Mary. 100% right, Mary. Itoje is a pale imitation of Doris, and he has not played a leader's role so far. Yeah, you see, like selecting teams and then the injuries happen, and
But how do we know that again, James? I get it. But how do we, not being privy to what goes on behind the doors as far as team talk and motivation, how do we know that's the fact? What happens if they perform brilliantly and they come back and they say Itoje was an amazing captain? We don't know. I get it about Doris. I'm a huge Caelan Doris fan. Not only is he the best number 8 in the world, I think that he turned out to be a fantastic, or he continues to be a fantastic captain, a leader.
Yeah, he's
in a quiet way himself. He's not a screamer or a beller either. But I just don't know. What I'm trying to say is the scales are still, a bit even on Itoje, because on song, on a good day, he can be a fantastic player. He can be, whether you like it or not.
But then Brent, on a bad day, he could be a yellow card penalty machine.
You're obviously not getting invited to a Tojo's wedding, but look, I would be happy with Sheehan. I mean, I think he's another outstanding player consistently. I think he's taken to captaincy like a duck to water. Very well spoken. He all the players like him. He's a good guy off the part.
He's a lot of respect from the players.
Yes, I mean.
Yeah, you're right, Mary. Yeah, Mary, I'd agree. Anyway, we have just comments here. Brent, Johan, Hugo, Van der Merwe, Tyburn have been poor. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed in Van der Merwe. Like, I thought on the hard grounds of Australia, 17-stone winger, but he just runs from A to B in a straight line. He just falls. Now that they've known to take him low, he just kind of falls over. So I've been disappointed in him, actually. I thought he'd be a star.
Brent, do you remember, and folks, and Mary, and Claire, and you remember the try that Van der Merwe scored against England, where it was a solo effort?
Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
Was it last year, 2 years ago, whatever it was?
Classic.
Fantastic, yeah. Right? Brilliant. The problem, and it's not just me saying this has been echoed throughout groups. I've seen it on the media sphere, throughout whatever rugby fan groups. Duhan van der Merwe is great going forward. Brilliant. No question.
Not great going back.
But he's not. He does not. As someone said to me, actually, no, I better not say that. He is no defensive mechanism. He's no defense at all. You run at Duhan.
They said that about James Lowe when he was in New Zealand. They said, I remember them saying that about James Lowe before he came over here, that he was great in attacking and he was shocking defence.
They actually said it when he came here, when he started as well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. When he first started, I remember.
Yeah, and there's a great comment by our friend and colleague James Grennan. The Lions tour justifying day drinking during the summer.
Yeah, but some had to actually work at 11 o'clock in the morning. I know,
yeah, and Dave Sheedy, a great Mary's man. 1 sec now. Hold on, just a few comments to get through. 1 sec now, folks. Mike Reedy, Tyburn has been played at 6 in 2 games, which is not his best position. He's a much better lock. Yeah, you would agree with that, Mary?
Yeah.
Yeah, we all agree with that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Shirley Thornton. I think they are feeling pressure for selection, which is causing too many handling errors. Yeah, the kickoffs and the high balls, the Lions really haven't dealt with that properly. Dave Oshida, there's a clear lack of proper leadership in all four home nations, whereas only 10 years ago you had many a choice. Okay. Sorry, folks, there's loads of comments coming in here. Johan, Brent, you were very quietly spoken in the Clontarf days in the bull ring. There you go. Maybe you know that, Popey.
I know that's a joke because I certainly wasn't a quietly spoken coach at all. Quite the opposite, in fact.
All right. Okay. Let's just. I see your comments there, folks, and thank you for. Hold on. I just have to. I have to show this one. Live stream salute. This is Joe Shepherd, folks. He says 14. Hi, Joe. 14 Freeman, 12 Sione, and ideal scenario. Chesham, McCarthy, Locks, leaving Morgan 6, VDF 7, and Conan 8. But reality is Toje, McCarthy, Locks, leaving Chesham 2-6. Yeah, good point.
I agree.
Joe,
agree entirely.
I knew Joe would say that. I knew he'd say that.
Peter, the one thing I would say on the before you went through all the comments there, the person who was saying who was having bad games, and they said Hugo. I think that's slightly unfair now. Hugo's only had one start, and that was basically after having a dose of explosive diarrhea.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he wasn't fully 100%.
No, he has another good game this weekend.
He did drop a ball or two. So, I think it's a bit harsh on Hugo.
Jesus, Lucky, that's all. Lucky, that's all he was dropping after the bout of explosive diarrhea.
Yeah, okay, Claire, thanks very much. Mary!
I never makes a mistake, really.
No, he doesn't. Yeah. Mary, I want to ask you, Jamie Osborne being flown out, good, bad, indifferent. What do you reckon, Mary?
It's great for him.
Yeah.
It's great.
But where is he going to play?
Well, I know
15.
they're involving him at the
Kinghorn.
moment. They're involving him at the moment just in training sessions and helping out with the training and whatever. I don't actually know what the plan is for him. I don't know why or where they're going to put him. We just think it's fantastic for him to be brought out.
Does he become a Lion then officially? Then does he?
He does, yeah.
Yeah.
He does, yeah. He does. He does indeed.
Do you get your number when you're brought out, or do you get your number when you're actually captain a match? I think you have to be captain a match to get your number.
No. I tell you what, you get your number.
I tell you what, we will Google this and find out.
When you're
named. I'm going to Google this.
All right, okay. Right. Brent, I really want to try and sort this out, and then Mary, I'll come to you after this. The centre partnership, right? This has been a subject to debate. I've seen it. The good, the bad, and the rugby. The 42, Murray Kinsella has had this. The Irish Indo have had this debate. The centre partnership for the first test, right? Is it going to be exclusively Irish, or is it going to be Scottish, or is it going to be intertwined? Brent.
I think it's going to be
on form now, Brent. On form.
On form. If you're picking just on form, which we clearly know now that he's probably not going to pick on form. If you're picking on form, you go Ringrose as a certainty, I think, and then you'd go probably Tuipulotu. You know, if you're picking on form, but he'll go with the combinations because defensively and offensively, it's crucial that you have. You know, especially given what he's saying that we haven't had that much time together. So you go with combinations. So it makes sense to have either the Scottish pairing or the Irish pairing. Now, I think Ringrose, to me, is a certainty. I know Hugh Jones has played well and he can move in different positions, but I think that he'll go with Archie and Ringrose because A, he knows them, and B, because there's not much of a difference between Bundy, Archie, and Tuipulotu anyway.
Yes.
So I think he'll go with Ringrose and Archie. I'd be surprised if he doesn't.
All right. Okay. And who on the bench then, Brent, to cover that?
Well, Hugh Jones will probably go on the bench because he can cover that. And, of course, then they have Farrell on the bench as well. So he'll be able to cover that 12 slot if they don't go with Hugh Jones. But it'll be it'd be hard on Jones because he's also been outstanding. And but I think that Ringrose is a different type of player. He's more sort of silky than Jones is more sort of power, you know. But,
true. No, true. I agree with you, Brent. Mary, your thoughts on what I've asked Brent. Is it going to be an Irish centre of the park, or is it going to be a Scottish centre of the park, or is it going to be a mix and match?
I would agree it'll be either Irish or Scottish, and I would say Irish, given exactly the fact that he knows what he's dealing with. They play well together. For the minimal difference in play, it's not worth more of a risk. So I would think that's what we'll do as well.
So you're going with Aki at 12, Ringrose
Aki
13.
And
just going back, just fill me in because I didn't know the news about why is Osborne being brought over to cover for who?
Kinghorn, because he's nursing an injury.
They're keeping Kinghorn on, but he's not going to be training as much, so they're bringing Osborne over as a training replacement for Kinghorn.
Yeah, so he may not be an official Lion. Well, he may be because there'll be injuries.
No, he is. Brent. He's got.
He is an official Lion because the official Lions announced it. So, because I asked that question in the group chat today, and I said it was like, so does that mean Kinghorn's fucked or is he gone? And you're like, no, they're nursing him through the injury. I think what they're doing is they are waiting to see how bad or good Kinghorn's injury is, and if it's only like a 2-week thing, maybe it's all right. But if it's a 5-week thing, maybe we need someone there just in case it turns into a 5-week thing.
I go back to the debacle that was out. Remember when Woodward took 47 players to New Zealand? So you got all these players being capped, all that walked around. I played for the Lions or whatever. Jesus, some of them didn't even have much of a club career. And I think years ago, wasn't Neil Francis selected for a Lions game? Like, if you're on the bench, for instance, if you're on the bench for the Argentinian game and didn't get on, are you a Lion or not?
Yes, officially you were because you're named on the
You
squad.
were, yeah,
Now,
yeah.
yeah, I do have a question about this, and I was going to say earlier on, why
Because
are the
who
why are
came
there
over
so
in
many
that
games?
Who sat on the bench in that Argentinian game and didn't go on the tour? One of the English guys.
Oh,
Don't know.
I was at the bloody game.
He wasn't selected
I
in the lines, and he came over to there was
Oh
they
yeah, it was that.
what the English
I know.
not Jamie George, was it Jamie George? I
Was
don't know
George
who.
on the bench? I
But
don't. Hang on.
anyway,
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. All right. Okay.
I don't know. I
Excuse
don't know
me.
how it works. No.
All right.
But yeah,
No,
it does
but
seem,
I think
mad, like
once.
what you're
Sorry, go
saying.
on, Mary.
I was saying, it does seem mad, like if you don't get to be on the squad and you get a cap just for being there.
Yeah, and it does seem a
It
bit
doesn't make sense. Sure, I could go.
No,
watered-
but it was
watered
years
down.
ago. But hold on. But it was years ago that the South Africans didn't get a cap. Brent, you might know more about this than I do, but I believe that there was something. If you came off the bench, if you were playing for South Africa years ago now,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't classed as a cap. You had to
No,
be
it wasn't
named.
because
Yeah, there you go.
Warren Gatland sat on the bench for the All Blacks for 50 games, but he was never a full international in the sense that he never played a test.
That's
So
it. Yeah.
Right.
nowadays, if you come onto the park for 10 seconds, you have an international cap. Well, the number of international one cappers walking around New Zealand at the moment is just. You can go into any pub on a Friday night and somebody will look over and say, "Hey, that guy was an All Black."
Yeah.
But you're looking if you're talking about caps for people walking out the pitches. Mary Carroll has about 20 of them. Don't you, Mary?
I'm never off the pitch.
No, okay.
They're more deserved than some of the ones that got the genuine
Match at that.
I do have a thing. I do have a thing about this, guys. So I'm all for it's great for. But why the fuck are there so many games? Like, I genuinely thought that this weekend was the fourth test game, and then it's like, oh no, they're playing the year test. So they played this and they played that and they played this and they played that. So they're like, I think it's a 10 games. I think it's a 10-game series. What happened to the days when it was a 3-game series? Maybe with two, maybe with two thrown in for good measure. This started like a couple
There
of
was
weeks ago, and
always
it took.
about 7 or 8 games, Claire, because they
Yeah.
went out
Was
there. It
there?
took so long to go out there. Like originally, when they
Yeah,
would have gone out
back
there,
in the
it would have been
back in
like
the
20
day.
weeks. But most of it is because there's feck all else sports on. So I mean, it's the
That's it.
TV
Yeah.
companies. Sky Sports
Wait.
won 10
Wimbledon is
matches.
on. Wimbledon is on, and the women's Euro or something is on as well.
All
There is.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Okay.
not at
No.
11
we have
a.m. in
too
the
much
morning.
rugby,
You
don't we?
see.
Anyway, we have too
All
much
right.
Okay.
rugby. All these
Oh, Tour de
competitions.
France. Tour de France.
Right.
Send
Yeah,
the
an
lines
Irish
on the
lad won
Tour
the
de France.
stage today.
Yeah,
saw that.
and the state of origin is on as well because that was on the same time as the Lions game the other day
See
because
that
there
game?
was a bit of conflict.
That
There was a
game.
bit of conflict.
Brilliant.
Queensland won.
Okay. Well done.
Sorry.
Now,
Sorry.
hold on. But we're fast approaching the hour mark, and we want to get just through a few things.
And we'll wave
Leslie
at it as it
Martin.
goes
Hiya,
by, and
Leslie.
we go past it.
Hold on. Smith is a 10, not a 15. Yes, we discussed that. Jenny Ainger. How are you, Jenny?
Oh.
Hi all. Owen Farrell has been brought in for motivation as Andy realises Tote is not the one for the job. Yes, don't think Farrell will get much of a run out though. He could be on
He's
the
there as a
bench.
cheerleader.
Could be on
But
the
he's on the
bench.
bench
Is
for
that in there?
Saturday.
Yeah, saying that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Jenny again is slagging you. Is Claire on the Vino? I don't think so.
No, I'm just like this all the time, Jenny. You haven't
The
seen
vodka.
me in my phone that. No, I'm actually not.
Maybe get on the Vino, Cleo.
Yeah, why
Maybe
not?
that might calm me down. No, this is me in my full natural glory. I'm just slightly normal.
Well, we can see the glass behind you there. I think no.
Yeah. Now, okay.
This one,
What was I going to say there, Claire? What was I talking about? I was going to ask someone
I
something
don't
there.
know what you were talking about. That's
All
your
right, okay.
Alzheimer's.
Right, let's go into
Talking
see,
shite.
this is what makes this show unique. We don't know what's going to happen. Right, listen. Brent, I just want you to I have a thing here, a note here to ask you because I think this is really important because as I said to you at the very start, this is a subject that is very close to me. in what you do with the elephant in the room and that sort of thing. I think it's great. I admire it and I support it. The whole idea of mental health in rugby, Brent, the concussion around this. Now, this is an entire show in itself. We could talk about this, Brent, but just briefly, if you could, just is enough being done, Brent, and then we'll go on to the games that are coming up next weekend. I just want you to.
No, I don't think there's enough being done. Not so much on. I know they're trying to make the game safer, and you'll never be able to make rugby completely safe because that's the nature of the game. What I mean about, I don't think there's been done enough around the psychological aspects of performance, failure, grief, all these things, because for a player to perform at the top level, I always say that life's like a big pizza, and the many slices you can get in there, you can, and that comes from a spiritual side, an emotional side, a mental side, a physical side. What we find in rugby or elite sports is that while you're performing, great. What happens if you don't perform? What happens if you have an injury and you get dropped? What happens? Because when I was working as a counsellor, a lot of young rugby players would come to me distraught about not making a first 15, distraught about their career was over. And there was no network for them to go and see somebody to say what was going on in their life away from rugby. And it's the same in football, sadly enough. When you're playing top level football, you're expected to perform every week. When you don't and you're dropped and you're asked to move to another club, to somewhere new, transport your family to a new contract or something, these are all things that affect your mental health, but they're not looked at. All that's looked on still today is your physical prowess where you're on the pitch, and a bit of mental psychology work in the sense of achieving, setting goals, achieving them, winning the World Cup, kicking the goals, winning the series. That's all okay. But what about looking after players' struggles and making it easier for them to say, hey, I'm not playing this way because something's happened at home, or something's happened at university, or something's happens out there that I can't seem to deal with. Those people should be said, look, we have someone in place to talk to and bring you back. So, and then let alone on the physical side, we've got this stupid game that's come on now where these players are running at each other. One's tackling and one's holding the ball. We're seeing YouTube clips of two guys left unconscious. A guy in New Zealand died from this stupid game. Well,
what is that, Brent? I saw that, but I don't really understand. What is it? What are they doing?
It comes from originated in American football.
Yeah.
But it originated with the pads and everything. Now we've got this game where one player holds the ball and the others run at him, making any tackle they want to dislodge the ball. And I think it's called cross the line or something.
Yeah. It's TikTok trend.
Two guys having a fit on the ground after the event hit. Two big men, plus 20 stoners running each other. The impact of that. And that we've had no international player coming up and saying,
speaking against us, or
this. In fact,
all right,
New Zealand guy died playing that game.
Yeah, no, I do. I actually do. I remember seeing somewhere on social media when that chap died in New Zealand. I remember seeing. I remember seeing one or two players coming out again, and it wasn't.
In fairness, came out and said,
it was Early that came out, but there wasn't the uproar that should have been there.
Okay, I'll tell you what.
Darwinism.
We are coming up. We're over the hour mark.
I know you want to move on, but I just want to say something to Brent. The other thing there, Brent, that you were saying around,
Mary, 1 sec, I'll come back to
players. Also, I think social media is, especially for the younger players. Like you look at some of the stuff some of the hatred towards Sam Prendergast or Frawley, things like that. It's disgraceful.
Well said.
Yes,
older pros can just shake that off. But for young guys, that can be critical stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Mary, go on.
I just wanted to know what Brent was saying, like apart from all the mental health issues as well, like when you think of these young men and women, they're so young when their careers come to an end, even if it is coming to a natural end. But do you know Billy Dardis? He was one of the sevens.
Yeah.
playing for
No,
Ireland.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He has set up a fund now. It's to set up a scholarship for helping players to transition from the world of professional rugby into whatever
Yeah.
career changes they have, because
Yeah,
some of them are just lost. So that's just actually being launched at the moment. It's just another step that's helpful to players.
I must talk to Billy around that because
Yeah, do
Yeah.
Brent. It's
I'd
on
like to
LinkedIn
get involved.
if you want to look at it.
Mary,
Yeah.
Mary, do you have the details for that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, will you send them on to me and then we can post
Sure.
it in the group and all. Thank
We
you.
promote
Yeah.
that. We promote that, Mary. That's as I
I
said.
sent it
It's
to you on LinkedIn as well, Brent.
No, that's great news. A, I like Billy, and B, I think it's a great thing because
He's
I
a
don't think there's
great
anything
guy.
that
Yeah.
somebody can. I've been saying for years, let's get somebody in there that can just talk to them away from the game about their career choices, about putting
Yeah.
everything in place. Like we
Yeah,
have it
yeah.
for retirement. Why don't we have it for young players transitioning into
Exactly.
especially if they've been injured before they've completed
Well,
their
that's
career.
Brent, that Billy was actually injured before the Olympics qualified, was
Oh.
there for all the qualifications, and he was injured and couldn't play in the Olympics. That was huge. So like he went through that mental trauma as well, very coped with it very well, but he's a lot to give to other players on that
Exactly.
on that
Yes,
aspect.
yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
Okay. Thanks,
Peter,
Mary.
time.
Sorry, go on, Claire. Yeah,
Peter,
go on, Claire.
time. I'm just the
Yeah, no,
time. Do you
I'm
see the
aware.
time?
I know. Yeah, I can see the time. Yeah, I know. I see it. I see it.
Just in case,
I
the rest
know.
Ireland is kicking in.
I don't miss it. No, I just want to read out Kieran Ryan. Hiya, Kieran. Evening, everyone. Love him or hate him, but Owen Farrell has experience of so many lines towards. Yes, he does. Don't think
He's
he will
Marmite.
play that much, but having him around is a good thing. Heading to Lisbon tomorrow to support the boys in green. All right.
Kieran, if you meet Nuala Grimes, tell her we said hello.
Yeah, all right, Claire. Well done. Now, listen, I'll tell you what now. Now you know I'm trying to speed it up now if I go. Come on, Claire, yeah, go for it. The game's
You do
coming
that
up.
all
Brent,
the time when you're talking.
I know, because we're overtime. Brent,
We're always
there's
over
games,
time.
I know, there's games coming up, Brent. Win, lose, or draw. Now, there's a lot of them. I've just picked out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
Just who's winning, who's losing, who's drawn,
Yep.
Brent, okay? We
Yeah,
have the Ireland under-20s women, Ireland versus France, Brent.
Ireland win. Oh, under 20,
right.
sorry.
Yeah, the under-20s, yeah.
Under 20, France.
All right. Okay, Fiji versus Scotland.
Oh, tough one. Fiji.
All right. Japan are playing Wales, Brent.
I think Wales will win that one.
Do you think?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Think so?
I'd go Japan.
All right,
So was mine. That's right.
Mary, I'm coming to you next.
Okay.
I'm coming to you next. Okay, Brent, New Zealand are playing France.
Tough one last week, but I think New Zealand will bounce back. I think they have to. Performance, I think New Zealand.
Okay, BP, New Zealand. Okay, now, the big one, the Anzac 15 versus the British and Irish Lions.
Lions.
Jesus, you went fucking straight out of the thing with that. You went hesitant
No,
there,
because
Brent.
it's a Barbarians team. Look, even Les Kiss said they've come over, they've been enjoying the socialising. They'll put up a bit of a performance for 30 or 40 minutes as expected. But, there can be no excuse from the Lions because those guys could turn around and say, hey, we only met each other last week in the bloody airport. So
Yeah.
you can't use the same excuse
Yeah.
that you haven't had time to get.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. A good point, Brent. Yes. Okay.
And Ireland to beat Portugal.
Okay.
He's ahead of the game. Go on, Brent.
I'll tell you what, Brent's on the ball.
See, this is
Okay.
consummate professional there.
Yeah, professional. He's like wrapping up time. Come on, hurry up. Are we right there, please, folks? If you know host to go to.
Okay, go on. Sorry, Mary, I said I'll come to you next, but I want to leave you for the last voice on the show. So, Claire, let's go with
Okay.
Ireland v France under-20s women.
France.
All right. Okay, Fiji versus Scotland.
I'm going to go with Fiji.
All right. Japan versus Wales.
My heart says Wales, but my head's saying Japan. So I'm sitting on the fence on that one.
Okay, New Zealand versus France.
New Zealand, but they need to up their game a hell of a lot since last week. They were, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The Anzac 15 versus the British and Irish Lions.
The Lions.
All right. And Portugal versus Ireland on the summer.
Ireland.
All right. Okay. Dara Weston. Ireland v France under-20s women.
France.
All right. Fiji versus Scotland.
Fiji.
All right. Japan are playing Wales.
Wales.
Make
They
it
have to win it. And Japan are they can be inconsistent and their own worst enemy sometimes. So
True.
I'd say Wales
Okay.
might actually do it.
Okay. That would stop their 18 or 19 losing streak in a row for
Yeah.
Wales if they were to win that. New Zealand versus France, Dara.
New Zealand.
Okay, the Anzac 15 versus the British and Irish Lions.
Lions.
Okay, and Portugal versus Ireland on the summer tour.
Oh, Ireland and Crowley to score like 60 points from the team.
Okay, and the last, I see Gregor Galway has been putting
Just
up
before
his
that, quickly, Trevor Brennan's son is starting for France.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that's
He
brilliant.
is, yes.
Brilliant.
All right, okay. Mary,
Yes.
last voice on the show this evening because it is your first appearance with us. Ireland versus
Hopefully
France.
not your last.
It won't be. No, it won't. Ireland versus France under-20s women. Mary.
France.
All right. Fiji versus Scotland.
Fiji.
All right. Japan versus Wales. Mary.
I'm thinking Japan.
All right. And New Zealand are playing France.
New Zealand.
Okay. The Anzac 15 versus the British and Irish Lions.
Lions.
Okay. And the summer tour, Portugal versus Ireland. Mary.
Ireland.
All right. Okay. All right, folks. That is it. That is all we have time for. We're gone way over time. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
As usual.
Yeah. No.
No. Sorry, I thought someone once said. Okay, we're way over time as usual. My thanks are to my fellow colleagues who run this group and this channel and all this stuff with me, Claire Devney and Dara Weston. Also, my thanks to Mary Carroll. And my thanks to the legend that is Brent Pope. Listen, folks, thank you very much. It has been our pleasure to chat with you. And hopefully we will see you on again. Take care.
Thanks,
and
Thank
enjoy
you.
the rest of your evening.
Okay.
All right. Cheers, Brent. Cheers,
Night,
Mary.
all.
Cheers, Claire.
Bye.
Cheers, Dara.
Bye.
Good luck.
Bye.
Take care.